Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Steve, and I'm building a racing game with Unity. This is my devlog series. I haven't spent much time on the project over this past week. I've probably only really done a few hours. What I've focused on was fixing the major issues with the last build, which was all of the intersections basically had streetlights in the intersection. So all of the cars were crashing into the streetlights, and also the turning lanes were not set to slow the AI vehicles down when they turn, so there was a lot of crashing just all over the place. That has been resolved, so the cars drive around this road network very well. They don't crash into each other. They don't crash into streetlights. So the simulation is basically solid at this point. I've gone through and I've set up about 40 to 60, I don't know how many, different AI traffic prefabs. And they're basically two sets of texture atlases. So in total, between those 60 car models, I'm actually using 3 different materials. And yeah, I just have I have about 22 in one set. And those 22, I'm creating duplicate materials and duplicate texture atlases and changing the color palette for the body color of the vehicles. And that allows me to have more variety of vehicles. So I'll probably do that 1 or 2 more times, which will give me about 80 or 90 different unique traffic vehicles. So there would be very little repetition. There's no rules being used yet as far as like which cars are spawned where and how many of them are spawned. I'll get into that a little bit more once I start setting up traffic pooling. Traffic pooling is probably the next thing that I want to focus on. There's a lot of performance room that I'm leaving on the table because the scene has 400 AI traffic cars driving around right now, but they're not all within view at any given time. They're all scattered throughout. So one of the viewers in the last video, Steve Stevens, he gave some advice. I was basically asking if anybody else had created a traffic simulation. What have you done, or what might your thoughts be for traffic pooling? And he had a similar idea as me, which is basically creating a radius around the car and having that check for a collider for the waypoint routes. And then if you're within that radius, you would spawn the cars. And that's something similar to what I was thinking about doing. I was more thinking about a quadrant system. But I think his idea is just easier to implement. It's less overhead, and it'll probably just work better in multiple situations. I'll mix it with some of the ideas that I was going to use for mine. But anyway, I've had about a week or so, almost a week, to think about how I want to approach that. And anyway, if you're still watching, I appreciate that advice, Steve, and good stuff. So at this point, that's basically all I have. I still have a bit of work to do with the traffic pooling, and that's the next step. I'm kind of considering this last 2 months or so, the main initial prototype phase. It's basically been me finding all of the systems that I want to use for the game and building them and making sure they're performant friendly. At this point, I feel like having a section of the city built out, looking pretty detailed, with some interactive things like interactive streetlights that I can drive into and knock over. The traffic simulation, a lot of the groundwork, the primary foundation for this game is all set up now, and I can basically start building a game using this. This is my open world environment. The next step would be to start making it fun. I mean, it's always fun to take a car controller and drive around a city and explore. Finding some interesting things to do and giving the player a reason to explore, that's going to be my primary goal. I feel like since I've been working on this car controller for basically the Unity asset store in my assets for a few years, this car controller is pretty polished and I enjoy driving it. So if I can enjoy driving it, that guy looked like he was just doing something wrong. I have no idea what he was doing. But anyway, maybe there are some broken things in this traffic simulation randomly. Anyway, if you could enjoy just driving around an empty city, and then once you put traffic in there and set up the lighting and just make it feel cool, at that point it starts to feel like you can build upon that and just be creative and introduce different storytelling aspects and some few gameplay mechanics and just a purpose for the player to be here. That's really what I'm thinking about. So I'm pretty happy that I'm at this point now because I have less actual programming to do and just more design work. And for that phase, it's going to be a complete different shift of the type of work that I'm doing. When you're doing programming, you're not thinking about game design. Programming is all logical. You're solving problems. You're figuring out how to make something be super performance friendly. You're making sure things work. When you're designing, you're doing creative things, which are not really logical. So anyway, that's just me talking about why I've been developing the way that I've been developing. If you're curious why I haven't done any actual gameplay development and I've been doing all of the programming first, that's why. Because I don't want to get to the point at the end of the game when I'm trying to release it and it's running at like 30 frames a second or 20 frames a second. I didn't want to be in that situation. And the fact that I laid out the foundation, created the framework first, that will help me just hopefully have a better experience as I go through the design process, because I know that I'm not going to have to worry about things like performance. And I'll basically have a budget in place and know what I can do. And I'm basically going to stick to what I know that I can do and finish. Anyway, that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm thinking about doing moving forward. Really looking forward to it. Thanks for checking this out. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.